Hey everybody, welcome to Zone Chat, our new channel where we're going to take a look at some games, play some games, maybe talk about the gaming industry a little bit, what we think about it, and hopefully we can add on to that later on. Nothing's really set in stone as of yet, so expect to see some random things. We would like to do some challenges where we like to challenge each other to different things in a certain period of time in games and see if we can do it. Hopefully it'll be very frustrating and entertaining for everybody when we start doing those.
Yeah, so like, we call it Zone Chat because if you go to any online game, right, you see a little chat box, and in the chat box you start off with an area chat or zone chat, and usually people are talking about whatever they want. They're not even talking about the game, usually. They're talking about random stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of things, politics, religion, sometimes the game's involved, a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes. But we're going to stick to the gaming part of that.
Oh, I can't promise anything.
Right. I mean, obviously, whatever we're into, we're gonna bring up, here and there. So it's not just games. Like you said, the anime can come into play too.
What we're hoping here is sometimes when you are wandering about in the middle of the night in an MMO, there'll be some honest to goodness conversation happening in these zone chats that are engaging and entertaining, and we're gonna hope to bring that to people in a way that they can enjoy it and hopefully relate.
Yeah, we're gonna leave out all the EP flexing, all that stuff that people usually have in there when you're too late at night.
No, we're gonna keep our pissing contests to ourselves usually.
Usually, more often than not. Right?
I mean, again, no promises. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not.
Mostly the funny parts.
So basically what this video is going to be about is a little bit about us, about what we want to do, and how we got here, and why we got here.
Yeah, how did you get here?
Personally, I started gaming as a young kid because I needed something to do while my mother was working. And it was the TV and video game consoles that took care of that. My babysitters, as they were.
I never had babysitters because my mom usually played games. And that's how I got into it. She's always... Well, she first had the Ataris and Nintendos, and I was, too young to play them at the time. But then I got older, and I pretty much, took all her time. It was, she wasn't very happy about that.
What was your first console?
Do you know the Atari 2600?
See, I never had the Atari. A friend of mine down the street had one. My actual first console that I owned personally was the Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo?
Later on, we actually had a Genesis, NES, all of the older consoles, but it wasn't until I was older.
Yeah, my mom got a Nintendo for Christmas from my dad. And the original Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers.
Well, it came bundled with the system, right?
Well, yeah, that was back in the day when they actually came with a game and 2 controllers.
That would be nice, but even the PlayStation only came with 1, so...
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Makes more money for them if you got to buy another controller separately.
Well, maybe, but since there's third-party people that release them cheaper, I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, I remember when I moved and I got my first Super Nintendo, and I was with my dad at the time. He bought me Super Double Dragon. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Well, when I first saw the box for that, I just flipped out, and my friends all running away from me because I was screaming "Oh!"
I remember the Super Nintendo boxes were huge compared to the cartridge too. It was strange. Of course, there's not really boxes anymore, so it's hard to. You just get your CD case.
Well, because back then they were filled. They had the game and the manual, and the rest was just styrofoam. Remember that? A lot of packaging was.
It's funny because cartridges aren't that fragile, really.
Yeah, I abused mine a lot, but they lasted for a while until they all caught on fire at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it didn't stop you guys from gaming though, which is good. And you still game with your mom today, don't you?
Oh yeah, we play online games now because I don't live with her anymore. Mostly MMOs, even though I play a lot more than she does, and she gets mad when I outlevel her all the time.
Well, she has way more characters than you do, so I guess she's got that going for her.
Well, yeah, because I move on, and she just sticks to the same game. Over and over again.
Yeah. Of course, you don't move on for long.
No, I go back. And you always give me crap about it.
Of course, you gotta wonder, like, what makes gaming so attractive to us? Why do we like it?
Well, I'll tell you why I like it. See, as I was growing up, it was the only thing I was really good at. You know, like I was never good at sports. You know, I never.
I just don't think you really tried sports.
Well, you know, when a friend comes over and like, hey, let's play basketball or something, I'll throw a ball around. But I was never any good at it. You know, I played baseball or whatever. But the one thing I was always good at is whenever we went home after the sports, I would just mop the floor with them in any game.
And now I mop the floor with you in most of the games, so...
Oh, come on.
I'm sure you feel great about that.
Well, I was always the best with my circle of friends, you know, and then I got older, it became more popular, and now I don't really seem that good anymore.
Yeah, well, we got a little older than the current generation is, and their reflexes are slightly better, but I guess it's no excuse. We just don't practice enough. We don't have the time that we used to.
Yeah, you know, there's that work... you know, gets in the way all the time. They have school, but they get home and I'll just do this and.
Yeah, those 12-year-olds on Xbox Live, they'll get you every time.
Yeah.
And Steam, of course. my personal love of games, it's just mainly an escape for me. I did play sports and whatnot. I had some friends, but the story. I've always been a much bigger reader than you, so
I don't read.
For me, the stories were what obviously Final Fantasy games, story-wise, they're usually at least better than, say, Double Dragon. Great game, story, but it captures your imagination. It takes you places where you couldn't otherwise go, which is pretty much the standard answer for any kind of fiction. But interactive fiction is an entirely different thing than just watching a movie or reading a book.
Well, I don't read books, but they didn't have voice acting back then.
No, they did. You don't remember like Yuri's Revenge and all of the PC games? They had live action, or Omega Boost on the PS1.
Well, no, I wasn't really into PC gaming back then.
Like Omega Boost on the PlayStation 1, they had full live action intro. It's good stuff.
Oh, I never played that.
Well, there was a few games that had the live action stuff, not on the cartridges, but. And there was some voice acting on the N64, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean the first live action I can remember is when Resident Evil 1 was first released. It had a full live action opening.
Yes, it did, but I obviously had a disc-based system then, and it was a little easier for him.
Oh yeah, there was some pictures in some of the older NES games.
Yeah, but for me, games they're my main form of entertainment, and they allow me to do things that I want to do. Things that I might not be able to do otherwise, like even simulation games. You know, an idea of what things are is better than doing them most of the time. Like I don't actually want to drive a tractor for the most part. I have driven a tractor, but not not in any official capacity. Or like the bus simulator. Like, oh man, this is what it'd be like to be a bus driver. You know, it's things like that you wouldn't want to try really if you could in real life, but allows you to do so if you want.
Well, that reminds me of The Sims. You know, I find myself playing The Sims. I'm on my computer, right? And I tell my sim to go play on the computer. So it's pretty funny how that works out because I'm doing day-to-day things in the game that I hate doing in real life, but because it's a game, I enjoy it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's not like we clean very often like we have to in The Sims, but then again we don't have a score in real life, and it's a little easier when you're like, you have to do this, or your sim's not going to be able to. There's set goals. It's like, oh, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to get a promotion at work. Whereas in real life, it's like, if you bust your balls, they might look at you at some point, maybe. It's a little more rewarding.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe if I actually gave myself a score, it would actually motivate me to clean.
Or if we tried as hard in real life as we do in video games, then we might make our lives a little better. You know, but it's more fun to do it because we know we're not going to grow fairy wings and go around flying around the neighborhood on a broomstick in real life.
Yeah, plus also when something bad happens in the game, you can just turn it off.
Yeah, like when I electrocuted myself twice and died accidentally. Yeah, no, I love those games. It's great.
Yeah, but don't do that in real life. That'd be very bad.
I've electrocuted myself more than twice.
But did you die?
No, I'm still here. See, I'm tougher than a sim. I am more powerful in a video game in real life, as I found out.
Well, that should help you then. I mean, usually you play a game where you're more powerful in the game, but this time...
Yeah. I wonder if Superman plays games to make himself weaker.
Maybe he does. When he's not saving anybody.
Because think about it, and there's very few games where there's a character stronger than Superman, so he would play games where he's a weaker person, a regular person, because that would be different for him.
You think he loses a lot in a video game?
I'd imagine it makes him feel good. Like, he can lose without the world being destroyed.
Right, I can just see it now. Like, he'll play a game, like, you know what? I'm playing this weak guy.
Fuck this game. I'm just going to lose. I don't have to deal with this. I have too much on my plate. I don't have to deal with this shit
look
anymore.
at me, I lost. The world is still here. I'm good.
I do wonder what you think about the shitty Superman games they've made, though. Every one of which was pretty terrible.
You think that would make him a good one?
Would he be able to make a good one?
No, I mean, would ever be able to make a good Superman game?
If we had a real one to model it off of, and if we were paying him royalties, maybe.
You think he would want royalties?
I mean, you got to pay for the Fortress of Solitude somehow. Fucking recorders don't make that much money.
But he just makes it. He doesn't have to pay people to build it.
I don't know if you've seen the different incarnations where he has all kinds of high technology in there, those fucking robots and shit. It's a little more than just making. You don't just make... I guess he can. I mean, he could fuse metals together with his fucking hands and eyes, so maybe it's a little different for him.
He may be strong and everything, but we don't know how creative he is.
Alright, so I wanted to let everyone know the kind of games that we were interested in and what we were hoping that would come out and what we're looking forward to playing, even if the release date's not even remotely close. The first one I wanted to talk about is Everquest Next and what they're hoping to do with that, which is basically, obviously most MMOs are sandboxes, but they're hoping to make it, I hate using this term, but Minecraft style sandbox where you can literally build and change the world as you see fit, which would be not entirely new for Sony. They had Star Wars Galaxies where you can place houses wherever you wanted, and it would deform the terrain to make it so your house was actually on level ground. So they're not entirely new to that. I'm just kind of hoping that they don't forget that and that they still have some of the developers from Galaxies, not the ones for the classes because they were terrible, or the combat mechanics also terrible. But my main worry is that they're going to focus so much on all of that type of stuff, and there's not going to be much of a game there because you still have to have the questing, you still have to have the progression and the items, and if that's not there, obviously Minecraft begs to argue about sandboxes keeping the imagination and keeping people playing. But when you're releasing it on a new device every 3 months, it's a little easier to sell units.
The problem what they have to tackle is that cannot be the only good feature of the game. You know what I mean?
There has to be more to it. There has to be more than just building. I mean, obviously, it's great to be able to build with your friends and do all kinds of stuff. The difference is you can already do that in other games. So they're gonna have to push harder, I think. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it's one of the best up and coming games, not just MMOs.
I've been waiting for a good MMO for a while now, and I keep getting my hopes up. You know, like I see a game coming out and they introduce this great new feature, and it comes out, and that one feature that they advertise is great, but all of a sudden the rest of the game is just horrible.
Not necessarily horrible, but something you can do somewhere else, and it doesn't really bring you into the game and keep you there. What I was hoping for EverQuest is that they're going to revamp the combat because hotkey pushing, clicking, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. It drives me nuts now, and I can't. It doesn't keep me engaged. And if a game doesn't have combat at least similar to Neverwinter, which is like hybrid hotkey, and what Terra had, which is almost full action oriented, it's just not enough.
Yeah, there's too many games. Like they all fall into this category. When one good game comes out, let's copy that game because it worked out just fine. But then you gotta have a mix of like the new stuff and a little bit of the old stuff so people can still like transition good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta have a segue, I suppose. But like, they just said that Destiny was gonna end up costing over $500 million, and a game's basically a first-person shooter with RPG elements, which is fine, but the Avengers only cost $250 million to make. And this game just can't hope to make that kind of money. I saw that it was going to take like 16 million units to break even. And the IP, while new, the mechanics aren't necessarily new. Obviously, they haven't shown everything yet, and I could be totally wrong. And I kind of hope I am because I want to play a good game. But at the same time, Bungie's known for one thing, and it's first-person shooters. Not to diss Halo any. I love Halo. It's just, that's a lot of money.
Are they still with Microsoft?
No, Bungie bought themselves back, and they're actually using Ubisoft as their publisher right now.
Oh, well, that's at least promising, because then they can release for different platforms, right?
Yeah, it's coming out on the PC and the One, I believe. I'm not sure if it's coming out on the 360. I'm not a fountain of information about Destiny.
I haven't even really heard of the game that much.
But my main point is that $500 million, and it's a new IP, so that's good. But at the same time, it's not necessarily that risky of an IP, or it wouldn't have been if they'd spent a reasonable amount of money on it. That's almost twice as much as they spent on GTA 5, which is almost guaranteed to make the money back. I mean, that's just it's an ATM for Rockstar.
Well, yeah, and although this is their first game, they don't really have any like previous games say, look, this is a sequel to this hit game.
They have a 10-year plan for this game.
10 years.
10 years worth of sequels and expansions.
Okay, that's something.
Now, obviously, they're using a lot of this $500 million to get a good start on that, but it's going to have a continued cost. And since it is a hybrid MMO, you're going to have server costs and all that stuff too. Not to say that the other Halo games don't, but not on this scale. And basically, what worries me is that with that kind of money, other companies are just going to be even more scared to do new IPs. And like, well, that tanked horribly. It's like, well, yeah, it tanked horribly because they spent $500 million on it. I mean, you can't spend that kind of money and expect to sell almost 20 million units to break even. That's insane.
Maybe they're going more on the whole 10-year plan or something.
Yeah, obviously there's a long Ubisoft. They're not a dumb company. They make money in almost all their games, and they even have been releasing new IPs lately. So you don't drop that kind of cash without a huge fucking game plan on that.
Well, and everyone knows who they are. I mean, everyone's heard of Bungie and Ubisoft, right?
Yeah, I would say Ubisoft maybe a little more than Bungie because people who don't play Halo and all that stuff they aren't as big on Bungie. But you at least know of Halo.
Well, yeah, everyone knows Halo. That's why every Halo game sells.
You've never played Halo, but you know Halo.
But has Halo Halo 4 sold that many copies yet?
I would imagine it's at least 18 to 20.
You think they made $500,000?
Well, think of the installed base that the 360 has.
Well, yeah, there's that. I mean, yeah.
Another game I'm looking forward to is Fallout 4. Oh, me and everybody else on the planet. But what I'm really hoping that they're going to do, especially because I wasn't a huge fan of ESO, another video on that, maybe. But I'm hoping for Fallout 4 to have co-op.
Yeah. I remember people try to mod all the Bethesda games.
Yeah.
To have co-op.
There's that mod that they're still trying to work on for Skyrim. That I tried it. It works. It's not full co-op, but it is a social aspect.
Well, yeah. Plus, when people do that, the only way they can make it really work is to have a server.
Yeah, they have their own server. Although Just Cause 2, had you ever seen anything about their multiplayer server?
I never.
It has over like 200 people. I mean, it was thousands. I don't know. It was an insane amount of people, and they're all just screwing around. It worked out, so it's possible, but it's a little easier for. I mean, Just Cause 2 is huge, but it's a little easier when it's just an action game. You don't have to worry about the quests or anything.
I'd be happy if it was even like a small co-op thing, like say 2 to 5 players maybe. It doesn't have to be like.
No, I'm not looking for more than co-op with one other person.
Right, so it's not going to be an MMO.
No, I just want the game. Kind of like Fable, the later versions of Fable, where someone can pop in or out at any time. It doesn't really affect your world that much, but you can interact. The last Fable, it was a Fable 3. You could actually get the other person pregnant. Stuff like that. Buy houses together, and shit like that. And that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Someone to pop in, they can help you with a fight. They could join a quest with you. I would love it if you could have more houses or properties or something. Kind of like the expansion they released for. Obviously, there's mods too, but the expansion they actually released for Skyrim, something like that. Obviously, they have the skills to do it, and I imagine the engine for Fallout 4 is going to be very similar to Skyrim's. Because at this point, if they make it too good looking, I'm not sure everyone has bought enough new computer hardware to keep up. Because we're in the middling, I believe, but we're still high end for average users.
I'm pretty sure Fallout 4 wouldn't be too bad. I mean, they want people to be able to play their games.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to look like crap.
Although considering I just looked at one of the new PC games and the minimum was a 6850 Radeon, and I'm like, son of a bitch, you know, it's we're getting toward the end of our lifespan here, which is kind of frustrating.
Well, I know when Skyrim came out, a lot of people were complaining that it was too high tech for their computers, but people were still downloading like HD texture packs and stuff for it.
The one nice thing about gaming is the games don't go away. They're always going to be there. If you don't have a computer good enough when it comes out in a few years, not only have you maybe upgraded your computer, but the game's going to be cheaper when you actually do finally get to buy it.
Yeah.
So you got that going for you. Not to mention there'll be a million mods and whatnot. Obviously, this is usually a plus for the consoles because you don't have to worry about it. Although with all of the stuttering and stuff I've seen lately on 360 games, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make too many more games for that because they're just getting too high tech.
Yeah, I'd imagine this Christmas is when they're going to start pumping the One and the PS4 a lot harder than they are. Although the PS4's sold over 7 million units so far, hard to argue with that in less than, 6 months has it been, almost?
Has it been that much?
End of November to now, something like that. But, which would make it, I don't know if it's, obviously it's sold faster than the PS3, but I don't know if it's sold faster than the 360. I have no idea. I'm sure if anyone's watching, they could find that out on their own and yell at us in comments if we're wrong for all of the things that we've talked about. And so welcome to the channel. Hopefully you can stick around and see what kind of videos we're going to come up with. There's going to be quite a few after this one already that we've got in the pipeline. We each have our own little folder for the Let's Plays we do on our own, and then we'll have joint ones between us where we yell at each other and try to play games, essentially. And then we're going to try to start up the challenges, basically come up with ideas that the other person has to do and see if they can do it. And then we're going to try to get some friends of ours to start doing some reviews with us. We're all in anime or even regular movies, possibly. At least ones that either piss us off so much we have to say something about it or entertain us so much that we have to say something about it.
Yeah, we've seen a few of those movies recently.
Yeah, maybe another time. Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in, and hopefully we can see much more of you.